On a clear, sunny afternoon in late spring, the normally lively streets of Manhattan's meatpacking district were filled with tourists and locals enjoying the warmth of the season. As the area buzzed with the typical energy of New York, an unthinkable event unfolded. A man, later identified as a 32-year-old resident of the city, suddenly attacked 3 women with a hammer in a brutal and unprovoked assault. The women were sitting outside a cafe when the man approached them, striking one of the women in the head with a hammer. Witnesses described the scene as chaotic and horrifying. Pedestrians screamed and some tried to intervene, but the assailant continued his violent attack. The woman who was struck in the head died at the scene from her injuries, while the other 2 victims, both in their 40s, suffered significant head trauma but were quickly rushed to a nearby hospital where they eventually recovered. The attacker, who had been walking around the area seemingly without cause, was apprehended by the police shortly after the assault. Authorities soon learned that the man had a history of mental health issues, and while he had been previously treated for psychiatric conditions, there were concerns about the adequacy of the support systems in place to manage individuals with such challenges. A broader mental health crisis. This brutal hammer attack brought to the forefront the growing concerns about mental health in New York City, which had been increasingly linked to violent crime in the years prior. Experts noted that incidents involving individuals with untreated or inadequately treated mental health disorders were on the rise, highlighting systemic issues within the mental health care system. The assailant in this case, as investigations revealed, had been off his medication for some time, leading to a significant deterioration in his mental state. Mental health professionals argued that had he received consistent and effective care, this attack might have been prevented. Unfortunately, cases like this were not isolated, and many experts pointed to the broader failure of the system to address mental health problems before they manifested in violent ways. In recent years, New York had seen a rise in incidents involving individuals with untreated mental health conditions committing violent acts. Experts warned that the growing number of people who were not receiving appropriate treatment was contributing to an overall sense of insecurity in certain parts of the city. Moreover, the stigma surrounding mental health often led to many individuals not seeking help until it was too late, exacerbating the crisis. Community reactions and calls for reform. The tragic attack sparked immediate outrage and grief within the local community. Many residents of the meatpacking district, a neighborhood often associated with luxury and trendiness, were left shaken by the brutality of the crime. A sense of disbelief and horror permeated the area, with many people struggling to comprehend how something so violent could happen in such a seemingly safe part of the city. Local politicians and activists immediately called for stronger efforts to address mental health issues in New York, specifically pointing to the fact that many people with mental illness often fall through the cracks of the system. While there had been strides made in providing mental health services to the underserved, many argued that these efforts were insufficient, underfunded, or too fragmented to address the scale of the problem. The tragedy also underscored the need for better support for families and communities struggling to cope with mental illness. Advocates for mental health reform suggested that more resources should be directed toward outreach programs, better community policing, and broader access to mental health care, especially for those who had shown signs of instability. The impact on New York's mental health debate. The attack resonated far beyond the confines of the meatpacking district. It ignited a larger conversation about how New York City was handling the mental health crisis in its population. With thousands of people living with untreated mental health conditions, many of whom are often homeless or incarcerated, New York was confronted with the need to address these issues comprehensively. Some residents expressed concern about the safety of public spaces, as they worried that individuals with severe mental health issues were not receiving the treatment or care they needed. In response, there was a growing demand for a shift toward a more proactive approach to mental health treatment in the city, one that focused on early intervention, increased accessibility to mental health services, and community-based care options.